Imagine standing on a sheet of glass. Now imagine that glass is stretched across a canyon, 300 meters of empty air beneath your feet. That's the height of an 85-story building, straight down with nothing but a transparent floor between you and the rocks below. Look between your toes and you see the canyon floor 1,000 feet down. This is the Zhangjiajie glass bridge in China. When it opened, it was the highest and longest glass-bottom bridge in the world. And here's the part that makes it truly insane. To prove it was safe, the builders handed people sledgehammers and told them to smash it. Then they drove a car across it. This is the story of how you build a bridge out of glass that people are terrified to walk on, and why it's actually stronger than the ground you're standing on right now. Here's how they did it.
Now watch why they built a bridge to scare people.
Deep in Hunan province in central China, there's a place that looks like it came from another planet, Zhangjiajie. Thousands of impossibly tall, thin stone pillars rising straight up out of the forest, wrapped in mist, like a fantasy world. And it's no coincidence it feels that way. This landscape helped inspire the floating mountains in the movie Avatar. Millions of tourists come here every year just to see it, and China realized something. In a place this competitive for tourists, a beautiful view isn't always enough. You need an experience people can't get anywhere else. You need something that turns a nice photo into a story they'll tell for the rest of their lives. So they decided to build the most terrifying tourist attraction they could imagine, a bridge of glass across the void. And there's a deeper reason this works so well. Humans have a hardwired, instinctive fear of heights and of falling. It's one of the oldest survival instincts we have. A transparent floor hijacks that instinct completely.
Your eyes tell your brain there's nothing beneath you, that you're about to fall to your death, even while your feet feel solid glass.
That clash between what you see and what you feel is pure, addictive adrenaline. The builders weren't just selling a view. They were selling a controlled dose of terror. The thrill of surviving something your body is screaming at you not to do. And people will travel across the world and stand in line for hours to feel exactly that. But here's the core problem, and it's a fascinating one. This bridge has a completely contradictory job. It has to feel absolutely terrifying. The whole point is the thrill of walking on nothing, 300 meters up. But it also has to be genuinely, provably, boringly safe, carrying hundreds of people at once over a lethal drop. Terror and total safety at the exact same time. And on top of that, the architect wanted something even harder. He wanted the bridge to be nearly invisible.
Look at this giant bridge. It's not really there. It has to vanish into the canyon, so it wouldn't scar this beautiful landscape. Watch it disappear.
Now the numbers. The bridge stretches 430 meters from cliff to cliff, as long as about 4 football fields. It's 6 meters wide, and it hangs 300 meters above the canyon floor. Its walking surface is made of around 100 panels of glass, and it was built to hold 800 people standing on it at the same time, and to survive a magnitude 8 earthquake and savage canyon winds. On paper, madness. All they had to do was build it. So let's start with the glass, because that's what everyone's really afraid of. And here's the thing you have to understand. This is not window glass. What you walk on is a sandwich. Each panel is made of multiple layers of tempered glass, laminated together, totaling around 5 centimeters thick. That's 2 full inches of solid glass. Tempered glass is heat-treated to make it dramatically stronger than ordinary glass.
And because the panel is layered, even if one layer cracks, the others underneath still carry the full load.
It's the same principle as a car windshield, which cracks but doesn't fall apart. So a single cracked pane is a cosmetic scare, not a structural failure. The floor beneath your feet is genuinely one of the strongest floors you will ever stand on. But telling people that isn't enough, because everyone's brain screams the same thing: glass breaks. So the builders did something brilliant for both safety and marketing. They staged a public destruction test. They invited journalists and visitors to attack the bridge. People swung sledgehammers at the glass with all their strength. A reporter cracked the top layer with a hammer, and the panel held. You could still stand on it. Then they drove a car, weighing over a ton, straight across the bridge. The message was impossible to ignore. You can hit this glass as hard as you physically can, and it will not give way. They didn't just claim it was safe. They tried to break it on camera and failed.
Now, the glass panels are only the floor. What actually holds 430 meters of bridge up across a canyon, where you can't put a single support in the middle? A suspension design.
On the top edges of the 2 cliffs, engineers built support structures, and between them, they strung strong steel cables. The bridge deck, the frame that holds all that glass, hangs from those cables. So the whole structure is really carried by steel, anchored into the solid rock of the cliffs on either side. The glass is the part you see and fear. The steel is the part doing the work. But that raises a brutal, practical question. How do you even build a bridge across a 300-meter void when there's nothing underneath to stand on? You can't put up scaffolding from a canyon floor that's the height of an 85-story building below you. So the construction itself is a high-wire act. First, you get the main cables across the gap. Then, working from the cliffs and out along those cables, crews assemble the steel deck frame piece by piece.
From this edge, the void stares back. I extend my arms suspended over the abyss, further and further into the empty air.
The workers who built this were dangling over the same abyss that terrifies the tourists, except they were welding and bolting steel while they did it, with the canyon floor 1,000 feet straight down. The bridge had to be built out into empty space, meeting in the middle over nothing. But here's a challenge most people never think about. This region is riddled with what geologists call karst, soft limestone full of hidden caves, cracks, and sinkholes. You can't just anchor a bridge to any old patch of rock because the ground itself might be hollow underneath. So engineers had to carefully study the cliffs and place the bridge's 4 support pillars only where the rock was solid and trustworthy, anchoring deep into reliable stone. Choosing where to plant the feet of this bridge was as important as the bridge itself. Now to the invisible enemy. And for a bridge this light, it's the real danger: wind. Down inside a canyon, wind doesn't behave gently. It funnels in gusts and swirls, and it can hit 50 meters per second, a violent storm force wind.
And here's the problem. To make the bridge look thin and delicate and invisible, the architect wanted the deck to be incredibly slim.
But a long, thin, light bridge is exactly the kind of structure that wind loves to grab and shake. It can start to sway and twist, and if that motion builds on itself, it can tear a bridge apart. This has destroyed bridges before. So how do you make a bridge slim enough to nearly disappear, but stable enough to survive canyon storms? The answer is hidden in the details. The bridge was carefully shaped and tested so that wind slips past it instead of catching it. And crucially, the deck isn't a solid, sealed floor. There are deliberate gaps. The wind can pass through the structure rather than slamming into it like a sail. On top of that, systems were built in to dampen the swaying, to absorb the bridge's movement and calm it before it can grow dangerous. The bridge is allowed to move a little, gently, so it never has to fight the wind head-on. Slim enough to vanish, engineered enough to survive. And that invisibility was a real design goal, not just a nice idea. The architect said his challenge was to make the bridge disappear, out of respect for the beauty of the canyon.
Far below in the canyon, I'm looking up at this incredible bridge. It's so slender and white, it looks like a thin scratch in the sky. A minimal, cloud-like line stretched between the cliffs.
From a distance, it almost isn't there. The glass floor plays into this too. Because you can see straight through it, the bridge doesn't block the view of the canyon. It barely interrupts it. A bridge designed to be as close to nothing as possible. And that's also the real reason the floor is glass at all. A solid bridge here would work perfectly well, but you'd walk across it and see nothing beneath you, just like any other bridge. The glass floor is what turns a simple canyon crossing into a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It forces the canyon into your vision at every single step. You can't look away from the drop because it's directly under your shoes. The engineering choice and the emotional payoff are the same choice. Every design decision on this bridge, the transparency, the thinness, the near invisibility, serves one goal: to make you feel, as intensely as possible, that you are walking on thin air. To pull off that thinness, the engineers did something record-breaking. The main beam holding the deck is astonishingly shallow, well under a meter deep, for a bridge spanning over 400 meters.
That ratio of span to thickness broke a Chinese record. The chief engineer described the deck in almost poetic terms: as thin as a wing, as light as a swallow, like a thin slice floating in the sky.
Making a bridge that slender that can still safely carry hundreds of people is a serious feat of structural engineering. Every kilogram of unnecessary material had to be shaved away without weakening it. There were even quirky rules born from all this. At opening, visitors in sharp stiletto high heels were reportedly turned away, not because the glass would shatter, but because a tiny point loaded with a person's full weight could scratch or chip the pristine surface. Selfie sticks were restricted too, over fears of people dropping them or scratching the glass. The strongest floor in the country, and its greatest threat, was a pointy shoe. On the 20th of August, 2016, the bridge opened. And what happened next is almost as wild as the bridge itself. It was designed to safely handle 8,000 visitors a day. But people wanted it so badly that more than 80,000 showed up in a single day, 10 times the intended capacity. The crowds were so overwhelming that just 13 days after opening, the bridge had to be shut down temporarily so they could get the chaos under control. The most terrifying bridge in the world had become one of the most popular places on Earth, almost overnight. And it didn't stop there. The bridge was such a phenomenon that, within a few years, more than 100 copycat glass bridges opened at scenic spots all across China.
Look down there! He's plummeting gracefully! This is one of the world's highest bungee jumps, leaping from a platform into 300 meters of open canyon. A single glass walkway launched an entire industry of vertigo.
But let's be honest about the flip side, because it matters. When you build attractions this extreme, fear itself becomes a hazard. On the original bridge and on some of the copycats, there were incidents, including a moment when a panel on one glass walkway cracked underfoot and triggered a panicked stampede, and cases where terrified visitors froze, unable to move, or had to be carried across. The glass was strong, but human fear is real, and a crowd in a panic on a narrow bridge is its own kind of danger. It's a reminder that engineering can make the floor safe, but it can't switch off the primal terror of standing on nothing. Here's the bottom line. The Zhangjiajie glass bridge is a beautiful contradiction, solved by engineering. It had to be terrifying and totally safe at the same time, so they made a floor of 2-inch layered glass strong enough to survive a sledgehammer and a car, then proved it in public. It had to span a canyon with no middle support, so they hung it from steel cables anchored in solid cliff. It had to survive canyon storms while looking nearly invisible, so they let the wind pass through it and damped away the sway. They took the most primal human fear, the fear of falling, and built a structure that lets millions of people step out over the abyss and trust the glass beneath their feet. They didn't remove the fear. They just made absolutely sure it was only in your head.
A bridge you can see through is one thing, but what about crossings that push even further? A bridge across a canyon so deep called the crack in the earth and comes back up the other side? That's what. This is the kind of story we break down here. See you at the next impossible structure.